Every year, Andrew Cole stood before his board of directors with confidence. He never feared anyone. He never showed weakness. But today, something felt different. Today, a stranger was coming to his company, a stranger who owned almost half of everything he built. Who was this person? And why did their presence make his hands shake? Sit back and find out as we delve into this powerful story. The rain fell heavily on the streets of Lagos. Inside a small broken house in the poorest part of the city, a young girl sat beside her mother's bed. Her name was Hannah. She was only 8 years old, but her eyes looked older, tired, like she had seen too much pain already. Her mother, Jessica, lay on the thin mattress, coughing weakly. Her face was pale. Her body was thin. She had been sick for months, working herself to death in 3 different cleaning jobs just to put food on the table. "Mommy," Hannah whispered softly. "Please drink some water." Jessica opened her eyes slowly. She tried to smile, but even smiling hurt. "Hannah, my child," she said in a weak voice. "Come closer." Hannah moved near her. She held her mother's cold hand. "Hannah," Jessica continued, her voice breaking. "I want you to know something. Your father, he is a rich man. A very rich man." Hannah blinked. "My father?" she asked quietly. "Where is he, Mommy?" Jessica's eyes filled with tears. He did not want us. When I told him I was pregnant, he gave me money and told me to leave. He said he could not let anyone know about you. He said it would destroy his reputation." Hannah's small heart squeezed in pain. "Why, Mommy? Why did he not want me?" Jessica held her hand tighter. "Because he was already married. Because he was building his business. Because he chose his name over his own child." Hannah looked down at her fingers. She did not cry. She only nodded slowly. "Promise me, Hannah," Jessica whispered. "Promise me you will be strong. Promise me you will study hard. Promise me you will never beg anyone for anything." Hannah looked into her mother's eyes. "I promise, Mommy." Jessica coughed again, her whole body shaking. Hannah quickly helped her sit up a little, supporting her weak frame with her small hands. "Mommy, should I call the neighbor? Should I get help?" Jessica shook her head weakly. "No, my child. Just stay with me. Just hold my hand." Hannah sat there through the night, watching her mother's breathing become slower and slower. She sang the lullabies Jessica used to sing to her when she was younger. She wiped her mother's forehead with a damp cloth. She whispered words of comfort even though her own heart was breaking. 2 weeks later, Jessica died in that same small room. Hannah sat beside her body, holding her hand, crying silently. No family came. No father came. Only neighbors who barely knew them helped bury Jessica in a cheap grave. After the burial, Hannah stood alone at the gravesite. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray. She whispered to the fresh soil, "Mommy, I will keep my promise. I will never beg him. I will never need him." An elderly neighbor woman, Mrs. Adebayo, walked up behind her. "Child, where will you go now?" Hannah turned slowly. "I will find a way," she said quietly. Mrs. Adebayo's eyes filled with pity. "You are too young to be alone." Hannah lifted her chin. "I am not alone. My mother taught me to be strong." She turned and walked away, a small girl with a broken heart but a strong will. Mrs. Adebayo watched her go, shaking her head sadly. "That child has fire in her eyes," she whispered. "God help anyone who gets in her way." Hannah moved into a small room in a crowded compound. She paid rent by washing clothes for neighbors. She woke up before sunrise, worked until her hands bled, then studied by candlelight at night. Her teachers noticed her. One of them, Mr. Okafor, saw something special in her determination. "Hannah," he said one day after class, "there is a scholarship program, international, for brilliant students from difficult backgrounds. I think you should apply." Hannah looked up from her worn textbook. "Scholarship? To where, sir?" "To London," Mr. Okafor replied. "Full scholarship. They will pay for everything. But you must work very hard. The competition is fierce. Hannah's eyes lit up for the first time in months. I will do it, sir. I will work as hard as I need to. And she did. For the next 3 years, Hannah studied like her life depended on it. Because it did. She scored the highest marks in her school. She wrote essays that made her teachers cry. She presented her application with the story of her mother's sacrifice. When the acceptance letter came, Hannah held it in her shaking hands. Mrs. Adebayo, who had watched over her like a distant guardian, cried with joy. Your mother is watching from heaven, child. She is smiling. Hannah wiped her tears. I know. And I will make her proud. 15 years passed. In a tall glass building in Victoria Island, Andrew Cole sat in his large office. He was 52 now, his hair graying at the sides. His suit was expensive. His watch cost more than most people earned in a year. He was the founder and CEO of Cole Enterprises, one of the biggest real estate and investment companies in the country. He leaned back in his leather chair, staring at the financial reports on his desk. His face was calm, but inside, worry ate at him like a slow disease. His assistant, Ryan, knocked gently before entering. Sir, the board meeting is in 1 hour. Andrew nodded without looking up. I know. Ryan hesitated. Sir, have you found out who the new investor is? Andrew's jaw tightened. No, he said quietly. No one knows. Not even our lawyers. Ryan shifted on his feet. Sir, this investor now owns 45% of the company. That's almost as much as you. If they decide to... I know what it means, Andrew interrupted sharply. I built this company from nothing. I will not let a stranger take it from me. Ryan nodded quickly. Yes, sir. I just thought you should know the board is nervous. Some of them are already talking about voting you out if this investor wants changes. Andrew's eyes darkened. Let them talk. I have controlled this company for 25 years. One investor will not change that. But deep inside, Andrew felt something he had not felt in years. Fear. Real fear. Not of losing money. Not of losing power. But fear of facing something from his past. Something he had buried so deep he almost forgot it existed. Ryan cleared his throat. Sir, there is something else. The investor requested that you be present at the meeting. Personally. They said if you do not attend, they will take legal action. Andrew looked up sharply. Legal action? For what? Ryan shrugged nervously. They did not say, sir. But their lawyers were very serious. Andrew stood slowly. He walked to the large window overlooking the city. From up here, everything looked small, manageable, under his control. But something told him that was about to change. Prepare the boardroom, Andrew said quietly. Make sure everything is perfect. I want to know exactly who this person is the moment they walk through that door. Ryan left the office quickly. Andrew stood alone, staring at the city below. His mind drifted to places he did not want it to go, to memories he had locked away, to a young woman's face he had not thought about in years. Jessica. He shook his head quickly, pushing the thought away. No, he whispered to himself. That was a long time ago. That has nothing to do with this. But in his chest, his heart beat faster, as if it knew something his mind refused to accept. Across the city, in a modern high-rise apartment, a young woman stood by the window. She wore a black suit, perfectly tailored. Her hair was pulled back neatly. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp, focused. Her name was Hannah Cole. She looked at the city below, watching the cars move like tiny ants. Her phone buzzed. She picked it up. Everything ready? She asked. A man's voice replied, Yes, ma'am. The documents are prepared. The board has been notified. They are waiting for you. Hannah smiled slightly. Good, I will be there soon. She ended the call and placed the phone on the glass table. She walked to the mirror and looked at herself. The little girl who sat beside her dying mother was gone. In her place stood a woman who had fought her way through scholarships, late-night study sessions, business degrees from top universities abroad, and years of silent planning. She picked up a small photograph from the table. It showed her mother, young and smiling, holding baby Hannah in her arms. Hannah touched the photo gently. "Today, Mommy," she whispered. "Today he will know. Today he will understand what he threw away." Her mind traveled back to the years abroad, the loneliness, the nights she cried herself to sleep, the moments she wanted to give up, but remembered her promise. She remembered working 3 jobs while studying. She remembered starting her first business with money she saved from skipping meals. She remembered the first million she made, then the first 10 million, then more. But money was never the goal. Power was never the goal. This moment was the goal. The moment when she would walk into his world and show him exactly who she had become. Hannah put the photograph back carefully. She whispered to it, "Watch me, Mommy. Watch what your daughter can do." She picked up her leather folder, walked out of the apartment, and entered the elevator. Her heels clicked softly on the marble floor as she stepped into the black car waiting for her outside. The driver opened the door silently. Hannah sat in the back, her face calm, her mind sharp. As the car moved through Lagos traffic, Hannah thought about every detail. Every move had been planned carefully. Every share purchase had been timed perfectly. Every legal document had been reviewed 100 times. She had spent 2 years building this moment. 2 years of buying shares quietly from different investors. 2 years of hiding her identity behind shell companies and international accounts. 2 years of preparing for the day she would reveal herself. The car stopped in front of Cole Enterprises. Hannah looked up at the tall building. Somewhere inside, her father sat in his office, thinking he was still in control, thinking his world was still secure. He had no idea that his past was about to walk through his door and change everything. Hannah stepped out of the car. She stood on the sidewalk for a moment, looking at the building. Then she took a deep breath and walked forward. At Cole Enterprises, the boardroom filled slowly. 10 men and women sat around a long table. They whispered to each other nervously. Andrew sat at the head of the table, his face unreadable. Ryan stood near the door, checking his watch every few seconds. One board member, an older man named Jacob, leaned forward. "Andrew, this is unprecedented. We do not even know who this investor is. How did they acquire so many shares without us noticing?" Andrew kept his voice steady. "They bought shares quietly over the past 2 years. Small amounts from different shareholders. By the time we realized, it was too late." A woman named Ashley, another board member, spoke up. "Andrew, if this person wants control, they can force a vote. They can remove you." Andrew's eyes darkened. "No one is removing me from my own company." Ashley pressed on. "But legally, they have the right. With 45% ownership, they can challenge any decision you make. They can block projects. They can demand full transparency of all accounts, including personal ones." Another board member, a younger man, added nervously, "Sir, I heard their lawyers are the best in the country. They have already filed preliminary paperwork requesting a full audit of the company's history, every transaction, every deal, going back 25 years. Andrew's hand tightened on his pen. 25 years. That would include the early days. The hidden payments. The money he sent to Jessica. The evidence of his affair. "An audit is fine," Andrew said, his voice controlled. "This company has nothing to hide." But his eyes told a different story. They showed worry. They showed fear. The room fell silent. Then Ryan's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his face went pale. "Sir," he said quietly. "She is here." Everyone turned to look at him. "She?" Jacob repeated. The door opened slowly. A young woman walked in. Her black suit fit perfectly. Her heels made soft sounds on the floor. Her face was calm, confident. She carried a leather folder under one arm. She stopped at the entrance and looked around the room. Her eyes moved from face to face, studying each person carefully. Then they landed on Andrew. For a moment, Andrew's breath stopped. Something about her face felt familiar. The shape of her eyes, the line of her jaw, the way she held herself with quiet strength. But he could not place it. Hannah smiled slightly. "Good afternoon, everyone." No one spoke. They only stared. Hannah walked forward slowly and placed her folder on the table. She did not sit. She stood tall, looking directly at Andrew. "My name is Hannah Cole," she said clearly. "And I own 45% of this company." The room erupted in whispers. Jacob leaned back in shock. Ashley covered her mouth. Ryan stood frozen near the door. Andrew stared at her, his face pale. "Cole?" he repeated slowly. "But Cole is my name. Who are you? Are you related to me somehow?" Hannah's smile grew colder. "Oh, I am related to you. Very much related." Andrew's hands gripped the armrest of his chair. "What are you talking about?" Hannah opened her folder and pulled out a single photograph. She placed it on the table and slid it toward him. Andrew looked down. His breath caught in his throat. It was a picture of a young woman, smiling, beautiful, holding a baby girl in her arms. Jessica. Andrew's face turned white. His hands began to shake. The room seemed to spin around him. Hannah's voice was steady, but her eyes burned with years of pain. "That is my mother, Jessica, the woman you gave money to and told to disappear. The woman who worked herself to death just to feed me. The woman who died alone in a broken house while you sat in your glass tower." The board members looked at each other in confusion. Ashley whispered to Jacob, "What is she talking about?" Hannah continued, her voice growing stronger. "I am that baby, the daughter you refused to acknowledge. The child you threw away because you were too afraid to damage your reputation." Andrew could not speak. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Memories flooded back. Jessica's face when he told her to leave, the envelope of money he gave her. The way he changed his phone number so she could not reach him. The years he pretended she never existed. Hannah pulled out another document and placed it on the table. "This is the proof of my shares. Legal. Verified. Signed. I own 45% of Cole Enterprises. And starting today, I will be sitting on this board." Jacob finally found his voice. This is impossible." Where did you get the money?" Hannah turned to him calmly. "I worked for it. I earned degrees from top universities. I built businesses in London. I made investments. I learned everything about finance, about real estate, about corporate law. And I learned everything about this company. Every weakness. Every strength. Every secret." She turned back to Andrew. "You built this company with money. I bought it with pain. With every tear I cried. With every night I went to bed hungry. With every moment I watched my mother suffer." Andrew stood slowly, his legs shook. His voice came out broken. "Hannah," he said, tears forming in his eyes. I did not know. I did not know she was suffering. I did not know she died. You did not care to know," Hannah interrupted, her voice like ice. "You had 23 years to find us. 23 years to check if your daughter was alive. But you chose not to. You chose to forget." Ashley spoke up carefully. "Andrew, is this true? Do you have another daughter?" Andrew looked around the room. Every eye was on him, judging him, seeing him for what he really was. "Yes," he whispered. "It is true." The room filled with shocked murmurs. Jacob cleared his throat nervously. "Miss Cole, what are your intentions? Do you plan to take over the company?" Hannah looked at him. "My intentions are simple. I will make sure this company operates with integrity. I will make sure no one here makes the same mistakes my father made. I will make sure that every decision we make considers the people it affects, not just the profit it brings." She turned back to Andrew. "You built this empire by stepping on people, by using people, by throwing people away when they were no longer useful to you. That ends now." Andrew's tears finally fell. "Hannah, please, let me explain." Let me tell you what happened. Let me. I do not want your explanations, Hannah said coldly. I want results. I want change. I want you to prove that you are more than the man who abandoned his child. She picked up her folder and walked toward the door. The next board meeting is in 2 weeks, she said without turning back. I expect full financial reports. Complete transparency. And Andrew, she turned slightly, her eyes meeting his, do not try to fight me. You will lose. She walked out. The door closed softly behind her. Andrew collapsed back into his chair. The room remained silent. No one knew what to say. They had just witnessed the most powerful moment in the company's history. The moment when Andrew Cole, the untouchable billionaire, came face to face with the consequences of his past. That night, Andrew sat alone in his mansion. The house was big, empty, quiet. His wife had left him years ago when she discovered his affairs. His other children, Ashley and Jacob from his marriage, were grown and distant. They called him once a month out of duty, not love. He sat in his study, surrounded by awards and certificates, photos of himself shaking hands with presidents and governors, proof of his success, proof of his power. But tonight, all of it felt meaningless. He held the photograph Hannah had left behind. Jessica's smiling face stared back at him, and the baby in her arms, the baby he rejected, had returned as the woman who now controlled his life. Andrew remembered the day he met Jessica. She was working as a secretary in a small office. He was just starting his business, young and ambitious. She was beautiful, kind, full of dreams. They fell in love quickly. But he was already engaged to another woman, a woman from a wealthy family, a woman whose father could help his business grow. So he made a choice. He chose ambition over love. He chose wealth over family. When Jessica told him she was pregnant, he panicked. He gave her money and told her to leave the city. He told her to never contact him again. He threatened her, saying he would deny everything if she ever tried to claim he was the father. And Jessica, heartbroken and alone, disappeared. Andrew tried to forget her. He married the wealthy woman. He built his empire. He had 2 more children. He became successful, powerful, respected. Now, sitting in his empty mansion, he realized how wrong he had been, how selfish, how cruel. He whispered into the darkness, Jessica, I am sorry. I am so sorry. But Jessica could not hear him. She was gone, and the only person left was Hannah, the daughter who hated him, the daughter who had every right to destroy him. Andrew put his head in his hands and cried for the first time in years. Over the next 2 weeks, Hannah attended every meeting. She asked sharp questions. She reviewed every document. She challenged every decision. The board members respected her. Some even feared her. She discovered things Andrew had hidden. Shady deals, bribed officials, workers treated unfairly, companies destroyed through dirty tactics. Every dark secret of Cole Enterprises came to light under her investigation. In one meeting, Hannah presented her findings. This company has been built on the suffering of others, she said, standing at the head of the table. Workers paid below minimum wage. Communities displaced without proper compensation. Competitors destroyed through illegal means. Andrew sat silent, his face showing shame. This ends now, Hannah continued. We will pay back everyone we cheated. We will compensate every community we hurt. We will make this company something to be proud of. Jacob protested. But Miss Cole, that will cost us millions. Maybe even billions. Hannah looked at him coldly. Then we will pay billions. Money means nothing if it is earned through pain. Ashley nodded slowly. She's right. We need to change. One by one, the board members agreed. Andrew said nothing, he only nodded. After the meeting, Andrew waited until everyone left. Only Hannah remained, packing her folder. Hannah, he said quietly. She did not look up. What? Can we talk? Just for a moment. Hannah paused. Then she closed her folder and looked at him. Talk. Andrew took a deep breath. I know I cannot undo what I did. I know I cannot bring your mother back. But I want to try. I want to know you. I want to be... You want to what? Hannah interrupted. By my forgiveness. Pay me to forget? No, Andrew said quickly. I want a chance. A chance to show you I can change. A chance to be the father I should have been. Hannah stared at him for a long moment. Then she spoke softly, but her words cut deep. Do you know what it feels like to watch your mother die because she could not afford medicine? Do you know what it feels like to be told your father is alive but he does not want you? Andrew's tears returned. No, he whispered. I do not. Do you know what it feels like to wash clothes in cold water until your hands bleed just to pay rent? Hannah continued, her voice shaking now. Do you know what it feels like to study by candlelight because you cannot afford electricity? Do you know what it feels like to be so hungry you cannot sleep? Andrew shook his head, crying openly now. Then do not ask me to forgive you, Hannah said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She picked up her folder and walked toward the door, then she stopped. But I will give you one chance, she said without turning around. Andrew looked up quickly. What? Hannah turned slightly. Prove to me that you are not the same man who abandoned us. Prove to me that you have changed. Show me through actions, not words. Then maybe one day I will call you father. She walked out, leaving Andrew standing alone in the empty boardroom, holding on to the small hope she had given him. Months passed. Andrew worked differently now. He personally visited every community coal enterprises had hurt. He apologized face to face. He wrote checks for compensation. He rebuilt houses. He funded schools. He donated money to single mothers. He built free clinics in poor areas. He funded scholarships for children who could not afford school. He did not do it for publicity. He did it quietly, humbly, hoping Hannah would notice. And Hannah did notice. She watched from a distance. She saw the changes. She saw the effort. She saw him crying at her mother's grave, which he visited every week. She saw him setting up a foundation in Jessica's name. But she did not speak to him outside of meetings. She kept her distance, still protecting her heart. One day, Andrew invited her to lunch. Hannah almost refused, but something made her agree. They sat across from each other in a quiet restaurant. Andrew ordered food, but neither of them ate much. I visited your mother's grave, Andrew said softly. Hannah looked up, surprised. I brought flowers, he continued. I sat there for hours. I told her I was sorry. I told her about you. I told her how strong you became, how brilliant you are, how proud she would be. Hannah's eyes softened slightly, but she said nothing. Andrew's voice shook. I told her that I failed her. I failed both of you. But I am trying now. I am trying to be better. Hannah looked down at her plate. For the first time in months, her voice was not cold. She loved you, she said quietly. Even after everything, she still spoke your name with kindness. Even when she was dying, she told me you were a good man who made a bad choice. Andrew covered his face with his hands. I do not deserve that. No, Hannah agreed. You do not. They sat in silence for a long time. Then Hannah asked something that surprised even herself. Tell me about your other children, she said. My half-siblings. Do they know about me? Andrew nodded slowly. I told them. They were shocked, angry, but I told them everything. The truth. What did they say? Andrew smiled sadly. Ashley said she wants to meet you. She said any sister of hers deserves to be welcomed. Jacob is more cautious, but he is willing to try. Hannah felt something stir in her chest. Family, real family. She had been alone for so long. Maybe, she said carefully. Maybe one day I will meet them. Andrew's face lit up with hope. Really? Hannah nodded slightly. Maybe. As they left the restaurant, Andrew spoke softly. Hannah, thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance. Hannah stopped walking. She looked at him. This man who was her father but still felt like a stranger. Do not thank me yet, she said. You still have a long way to go. But as she walked away, Andrew saw something in her eyes that had not been there before.
Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility.
She had also met Ashley and Jacob. The meetings were awkward at first, but slowly, carefully, they began building something that looked like a sibling relationship. My dear viewers, what do you think about this powerful story? Please share your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to read from you. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching.